Okay, wow. So, that was very wonderful, and I appreciate all of you who spoke, and I appreciate all of you who have come to hear me speak. First, I want to say that I cannot do what I do, I cannot make my work without the help from this extraordinary, amazing woman who stands next to me right here. I mean, I have the name, but she has the soul, the spirit. She knows everything about the work. She knows more about the work than I know about the work. And I'm very honored to be in her presence, except for a few occasions sometimes. No. But it's a real, we have had a life together, and it's hopefully will continue for a very long time. So let me just start. I have a lot of things I want to tell you. We are not going to get anywhere near talking about these things. And of course, most importantly, I want to hear from you. So I want to have a dialogue with you. So I want to talk for about maybe 40 minutes or so with some of these ideas I've been thinking about today. So let me just start. And I want to say this at the beginning. I am not going to talk about political issues. I'm not talking about the art market. I'm not talking about galleries and museums. I'm not talking about critical theory. I'm not talking about aesthetic and technical strategies. Why? Because there's something far more important at the root of all of these things. And that is the treasure or the jewel that is within yourself. And first of all, let me say too, I'm here to talk with the students especially, because you are just starting your work, and this is extremely important what you're doing at the beginning of your life in the world. This is very, very important. But I also want to say in this place right now that I'm really talking to artists from 18 to 88, okay? Because that's where everything, you will not leave what you have in your soul until you arrive in heaven. So that's very, very important. We are all just messengers. We are all just, traveling together through the cosmos. That's very important. Now, in terms of the students, you have to know, and to all of us, that you have a gift. You have a gift that's within you right now. You will live with that gift for your whole life. It will give you inspiration. It will help you. If you don't treat it right, it will hurt you. And everyone you meet will have something to give you. That's very important. Life is a gift. So I first want to say, I want to show you this. Oh yeah, we want to start with the image? Okay. See, she knows more than I know. So just a minute, let me just conclude this. Just one quick thing before we start. I'm going to be showing you some videos while I'm talking. So the first thing I want to just tell you is that you have a gift. We all have a gift. And everyone you will meet is here. Everyone in this room is here because someone at a certain moment in their life, whether they were a baby or an old person, in their life at a certain moment, someone gave them help. Someone gave them something that they needed. And sometimes it's your enemies that give you what you need. But this is the foundation of who we are, this idea of the gift that circulates within us. So you should always be very careful and listening very clearly when people are talking to you and when they want to give you something. You have to be aware because the gifts don't come all the time. So what I want to do is, and let me just say one small thing about the gift. The reason why we're all here is because, again, someone helped us in our past. So we just heard some very, very erudite people talking about my work, talking about this occasion. But I want to also point out that for me, what's equally important is this simple act here. put down my glass. My mother taught me that. My mother taught me how to do that as a young baby so that I wouldn't spill the water on my body. And all of you now can drink, okay? It's a very, very special thing. It's very mysterious, actually. So we're all here because someone at some point in our past gave us something. And I think also what I want to talk about today is another important thing is that in my mind there's only one true measure of success, and that resides in the deepest place within you, in the human heart. Not the head, but the heart. That is the most precious thing. The heart knows the difference between right and wrong. Okay? The heart can teach us what is the right thing to do, what is the bad thing to do. You have to be careful, you have to listen, and you have to know. You have to feel it. It's very important. Now, in the process, I'm going to be talking about some of my sources of inspiration tonight, because I'm here also because someone gave me not one thing, but many things. I've been very blessed in my life to have an incredible experience up to this point. So I want to be talking about my sources of inspiration, because I think as artists we need to share that. We don't need to hide it. We don't need to cover it to protect it. We don't need to run away with it, and so you have the only one. We need to share. We need to open it out. That's very important. So first thing I want to do is share with you one of my pieces, one of my favorite pieces. It's called Fire Woman. And we're going to see it up on that screen. And then I'm going to give the talk as I start. I'm going to give the talk, and I'm going to be showing you other videos on the screen while I'm speaking. And the sound will go now. But let's listen to this piece for a little while so you get the impact of it. This is Fire Woman. Okay, so that was a work that was made in 2005 as part of the Tristan project, which is an opera by Richard Wagner. And this is one image from that opera, and I made a series of works based on these individual shots that I had in this extraordinary opera. There is no special effects that you're seeing here right now. This is a real fire. There was a real woman standing in front of the fire. There was a real pool of water, 90 feet long, standing in front of her as she fell into the water. And what we're simply looking at right now is the pool that was built to contain the water slowly, slowly coming down and becoming less and less violent until it's completely clear like glass. So that's called firewater. Now, coming back to our beautiful students who are present from 18 to 88. Particularly you young people, I'm thinking about you a lot as you start your lives. It's a very, very precious moment that you're at in the world. There's a lot of things coming at you. You're getting a lot of information from your teachers, which of course is the way that people learn. I remember seeing a small hummingbird outside my house in Long Beach, California one day teach her child how to fly in one afternoon. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And that's a very precious thing, and we will pass that on. All the knowledge we get will pass on to other people, just like that mother bird that I saw that day. So that's very special. But I'm also thinking about you in other ways. So what happens when you leave this beautiful university environment? How will you support yourself? How will you make money? How will you stay alive? You know, we all have these really difficult things in front of us. We're not sure how we're going to do this. You know, who will help me? How can I afford to spend the money to make my art? And 40 years ago when I was in school, we didn't have a lot of these issues, and there weren't as many artists as they are today. So it's a new world, it's a transition, but I will absolutely guarantee to you that you will make it and you will carry it through. I know that for a fact. Why? Because artistic talent at its root is independent of culture, class, gender, race, and age. Okay? It's both an equalizer and a separator. Equalizer because everyone is creative, everyone. Including little children playing with wooden blocks. But not everybody has the same level of technical skills. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And right now, I think, in my opinion, and I wrote this in a very, very simple pencil pen, so I'm going to try to read it again, but our time right now, is the greatest and most diverse and wide-ranging stages and formats and techniques and technologies in the entire history of art. That is our time right now, thanks to a lot of things that are converging right now. We're in another renaissance right now, I believe. And it's going to be really as extraordinary, if not more extraordinary, than the one that we know from past history. So look with your eyes wide open right now. There are really amazing openings right now out in the world. I need a little bit of light here. Is there any way to put on some light? We can put on a little bit of light. Yeah, there you go. That's nice. Oh, is that what you look like? Oh, that's great. Okay. Anyway. So I want to also say to our students here that you know, you have very difficult demands that are placed on you when you leave these universities. You're expected as an artist to go inside yourself in the deepest way possible. sometimes right into the edge, and unfortunately sometime beyond, where you don't come back. That happens too. And at other times, then, we're expected to engage the world of business, finance, institutional politics. We have to work with all of those things just at the point, the youngest, when you're coming out into the world as a young person. It sounds extremely crazy and impossible, but it's nothing new, okay? So I want to just encourage you in a one moment here, if you can allow me. I'd like to tell you that the old masters, in fact, don't exist. They should never have been called old masters, okay? So all I want you to know is this, okay, for your contemporaries, okay? These were not old masters, they were young radicals. Masaccio was 23 years old when he did the Trinità in Santa Maria Novella. Michelangelo was 24 when he did the Pietà in the Vatican. Raphael was 26 years old when he did the Stanza della Segnatura in the Vatican. So these are internet, web crazy, nutty, crazy guys, okay? They were the cutting edge of reality. They were understanding a new technology perspective for the first time since the ancient world. And who's going to pick that up on that? Not the old artists. It's you guys, the young guys. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, keep looking. And especially right now, we are in a really important time right now in this world, you know. And at the same time, there's so much cynicism and irony and parody out in the world, you know. It's just difficult to recognize which way to go forward, you know. But that's always been the role of artists since ancient time, to look for the openings. So don't give up, please, okay? Right now, you are coming in a world, you young people, and it's happened in other generations that are sitting in this room as well. Mine happened to be the late 1960s, which was another kind of revolutionary time. And there is thousands of times beyond that, all the way back to the beginning of history, okay? That's constant in our world. But right now, young people, you are in an extremely incredible place. I don't even know if you realize it. I've been coming to understand it little by little myself. So right now, the world is in crisis. And the crises are always in history. They always have to do with some kind of technical change. So obviously, the digital world right now is the main thing that's completely turning everything upside down. But it's more than that. What we have here is we have financial institutions that have completely discarded their own work that they do and turned their backs on us, okay, with greed, okay? We have an ecological crisis right now. Literally, the world is heating up. Someone's going to have to do something about that. That's extremely important. That could take down the whole planet, okay? We're always going to have political crisis and social crises. That's happening as well. And of course, we have, in my opinion, one of the most key elements in this whole thing is a spiritual crisis. And even with that, I have such a positive feeling right now. There was an amazing survey of young people in America about a year ago. And they asked them all sorts of questions. What is your school like? What do you have? What are your aspirations for the future? What kind of sports do you like? What kind of this do you like? What kind of clothes do you like? They were all trying to understand where young people were in the world. And what caught my eye were two little entries in a very, very long list of things. And the first one came at the beginning of this survey of young people. And what it said was, do you consider yourself religious? 95% of the young people said no. 95%. This is in America, okay? 95% said no. Way down at the bottom of the survey, they asked another question about religion. And it said, do you consider yourself spiritual? 95% of the students said yes. Wow. So what that tells me is our institutions, which have supported us for all of these years, need a makeover. They need to keep going forward. They're stuck. They're stuck. And they need to come forward, and they need to bring young people into that world. That's so important, because if we don't do that, there's going to be a gap. And we don't want that gap to happen, because that stands between us and God, and we don't want anything in that space. Okay? And when I say God, by the way, it's anything, if you're not religious yourself as young people, which some young people aren't today, that's fine. But when we say God or any of these words in all of the great religions of the world, we're really talking about one thing. And that's, we're talking about something larger than ourself. Something that is bigger than you. Okay? Because if you're not going to do that and recognize that, then you're going to stay in this egocentric way, and you're going to think you're the most important person in the world. And that's a tragedy. That's a disaster. So we don't want that to happen. Okay? So the moment of opportunity we have right now in front of us, in your generation, is unbelievable. So what's gone on right now is we, us older folk, have really, really screwed things up big time. We've made a mess of everything, okay? And as always happens throughout history, who comes along to help make it right? It's the young people with new ideas, new hope, new dreams, okay? That's happening right now. All revolutions start from a crisis, and we're in the middle of multiple crises right now. So the beautiful thing that you have right now that's opening the door for you is the fact that when the big trees fall in the forest, the really big trees, when they fall, boom, that's tragic. You cry. There's a beautiful oak in the Villa Panza right now, the most beautiful oak I've ever seen in my life. I love trees. I can't get my eyes off of trees constantly, okay? There's an incredible one that's 300 years old in the garden, okay? I go out to it when we've been here working. It's unbelievable, okay? So this tree is right there, and that tree's going to fall really soon. They've tried to even inject it with things and stuff like that. I was talking with people about it. And we will lose that tree very, very soon. So we're in a moment like that, young people, okay? The trees, the big trees are falling, okay? All the big corporations are in trouble, okay? The banks have deserted us, okay? It's really, really serious. So this is your time right now, because when the big trees fall, guess what? Light comes down from the forest way up top for the first time in years and years and years. And you're there. You're there as a little shoot in the ground. So when the big trees fall, the sprouts come up. It allows them to grow. It allows new things to grow in the forest that didn't happen before. So that's the ecological way that all of this is transmuted. That's a very, very important thing. So we right now, it's a great moment of opportunity for you. And this will not last forever. I heard the Dalai Lama say this exact fact about 2 years ago. He said, this is one of the greatest moments of opportunity for young people right now who have new ideas. And he said it won't last. It's a window. It won't last forever. So we need you, okay? In my mind, you are at the top right now, because you're going to save us from ourselves, okay? Very, very important. Now, another thing, and this is a little more difficult. I wish it was as easy as the first one. But guess what? So, when we have to deal with one important thing that nobody is going to be able to change. And that, of course, is death. Okay? So there is a traditional dilemma in the concept of birth and death that we have to be aware of. And that one is that, according to the ancient Greeks, when you get on the boat of Charon, and he takes you across the underworld to the other side of the river and lets you off in the Elysian fields, okay? At the same time, he erases your memory. So your memory's gone, which isn't a bad thing, because, you know, if you've been living around your whole life, and fine, no problem. You can just go to the Elysian fields and, wow, everything's great. But guess what? What about us back on the other side of the river? What do we do? Okay? What do we do? So therefore, at this moment, when you're really at the beginning of your lives, your careers, crossing to the river of forgetfulness is so far away from your thoughts right now. Okay? But the question, the fundamental problem that remains is, how do we keep the knowledge of the group intact? How do you keep the knowledge of the tribe and the group and the culture intact if individuals die? And the way you do that is through speaking, through sight, through sound, through song, through dance, through ritual, through painting, through sculpture, through writing, all aspects of art, therefore. That's what we need. That's what allows us. It's the stories and the songs and everything that's been saved that comes across and stays on our side of the river. So we won't forget it. That's like really important. So basically what I want to say to you is your job prospects look very good. Okay? You're going to be in need. You're going to be needed a lot. Okay? And you're going to pass that on too. So this is your purpose. This is your job. This is the most important job you have in your life. Okay? To make sure that it stays on this side of the river. So let me just spread things out a little bit. And okay, that's another piece that I made. This is called the Quintet of the Astonished. And we're going to just watch that. It's a silent piece. Okay, it's getting towards the end. So, okay, so let me just put us in context a little bit as artists. And I want to stress, I'm talking to everyone as artists. Okay, we all have creative powers. So the artists today, we're part of a tradition, a lineage that goes back to the beginning of human beings. Of course, we have decided in Latin to talk about them in terms of their name, Homo sapiens, which means wise man. So the oldest material evidence of human beings on this planet is our images. Okay? So you have painting that goes back at least 30,000 years. Carving, sculpture goes back 40,000 years, which are based on discoveries in Chauvet Cave recently in France. And what do you find in these caves? When you go in the caves, you find two things. You find paintings on the walls, and you find tools on the ground. So what is that basically? That's art and technology. That's the basis of human beings, art and technology. So as artists, you're in a privileged position to use both of these things in your work and in your life. I also want to say that to our young people especially, that the first thing to know about making art, in my opinion, is that making art is serious work. Okay? It's got a long, long history. Okay? You have to know that wars have been fought over images. People have died over images. People have been saved by images. And as artists, you have to understand now, young people, that you are coming into your life at a special time because you are about to become the keepers of the visions of humanity. And I don't want this to sound silly or anything. This is real. It's really true, and it's very, very real. Okay? Your parents will not be on this earth one day, and you'll have to carry on. Okay? That's a beautiful, special thing that all human beings experience. Okay? So you are the keepers of the visions of humanity. It's a tradition that goes back to the origins of human beings. And second thing to know is this is not a game. Okay? It's not a game. Who can be the most clever? Who can be the most innovative? Who can be the most disturbing artist? Who can be the most rich and successful artists? These are at best byproducts of the whole experience. And at worst, if they're personal goals, that's terrible. Okay? This is about being honest. It's being real to yourself when no one is looking. Okay? You're not trying to say, wow, I did the best work in my class, Forget it. You do it for this guy in here, and you do it for that guy up there. That's who's looking at you, okay? So you have to be honest to yourself, not to your friends, not to anybody else, your teachers, to you, okay? And you have to be selfless, because as artists, the most important thing we do is give away what we do, okay? Right now, that's hard to say. Right now, we have a situation where art sells for hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you told the artists who have made those works, they would be horrified. They would be horrified at what the economic system has done. You know, it's turned artist against artist. It's terrible, you know. So be honest, be true to yourself, be selfless. And it's about you it's about you at the point when you are on the most deepest, most unprotected, most vulnerable level. That's where you want to, that's where masterpieces come from, okay? Masterpieces don't come from a nice, clever idea. They come from struggle, they come from pain, they come from doing the same thing over and over again because it's not working. And then in the end, somehow, something comes out. And very often, you don't even know how you made it. So we've turned the whole system around in the age of postmodernism when we go right away to the masterpiece, okay? We set that up. This is like a police interrogation, okay? What this kind of way of working has become now, you know? Because it's all got caught up in economics and everything. But it's a police interrogation. So it's like going into the museum, you put up the masterpiece. And what do? You turn on the brightest light you have. Boom! Okay? And guess what happens when a little animal is in front of you and turn on a bright light? What do? They just run, right? So your creativity runs, you know? You run, because you want to run from that. Because where we want to be is where the little nocturnal animals live, you know? When the day ends, it gets dark, and then you're in the forest, you can't see anything, but you hear these little things. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to go. That's where you'll find the masterpieces, you know. So art is timeless and eternal. It's fueled by inspiration. What is inspiration? Inspiration is a living force, a gift from the stars, a force of nature. It's shared by animals, humans, and all living creatures. It's given to us through inspiration, but it comes out of us through creativity. That's why you're here. Creativity is the catalyst, the fuel in the fire, the tiny little spark in the human heart that can move mountains. It's a very special force. You can ignore it, you can squander it, you can deny it, but it will remain unmoved and unmovable even if it's buried and forgotten for an entire lifetime. It's a beautiful thing. It's not the property of artists alone. Everybody shares it. Okay? I want to just say again, you have been an artist and you will be an artist your whole life. And whether or not you end up practicing as a professional artist doesn't matter. The journey you're about to take is the oldest one in reality. It's not to complete all the courses that your professors are giving you, which is part of it. But in reality, in the end, you're starting to take the oldest journey in humanity, which is the journey to discover your true self, one-on-one with God. And it's a path in which failures become successes, in which every fork in the road has a creative possibility, where there are no right or wrong answers. In fact, it's the questions and not the answers that are the most important. One of my favorite things that I discovered one day when I was younger is the Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle of Delphi is an extraordinary thing. And it has to do with knowing yourself. In the ancient world, the most important knowledge you had was not out there somewhere, it was in here. So knowing who you are, where you are, and why you are especially, that's the most important questions that needed to be answered. So when one had a question and one wanted to go and find the answer to the question, in ancient Greece, they would go to Delphi, and they would go there to speak to an oracle. This is a female shaman who, in the 3 days that it took to get there, which were very treacherous and very dangerous because they were way up in the mountains, took 3 days to get there. And when you got there, you arrived at a temple. There was a door, and you thought it was a door, but it was pitch black. You couldn't see into it because the light, of course, in Greece is so blinding in the daytime. So you reached this door that you thought was locked, and when you looked at it, you realized it was open. It was just that it was in complete darkness inside. So you went into the temple. The female shaman was waiting for you. You had your question, and you couldn't barely see her in the mist because there was incense burning. You went into that dark place, and you gave her your question, and she responded with a riddle. Not with an answer. Answers aren't that interesting. But riddles are really interesting because they never end. So that's what happened in these places in the ancient world. And that's a lot more different than going on the internet for knowledge, isn't it? And this is not, why? Because this is not an intellectual thing. It's something else. It's visceral, it's bodily, it's emotional, and most important, it's mystery in the most positive, life-giving sense. Okay? It's also a metaphor for art making and the discovery of the darkness that you have to go into to descend into in order to create your work. But I want to say, too, that you won't make this journey alone. You will receive help from many people. As I told you, your enemies will give you possibly the most help and resistance. And the most important guide and treasure on your journey, in my opinion, will not be knowledge, even though that's vital. Obviously, I believe in knowledge. That's extremely important. But when Edmund Hillary got up to the top of Mount Everest and he put the flag in there, it was over, you know? I mean, he was an amazing man. He did one of the great feats on the planet. But in the end, he got up there, planted the flag, and he was over, okay? So beyond knowledge, there's something even more important. And that's the stuff you don't know, which we call mystery. And that's the eternal reason to keep moving forward. So if you get your questions together, that's great. But the answers, don't worry about it, you know. Just keep moving. That's the most important thing. So I don't know how much time I've taken already. I could do this all day. I'm sorry. Here's a great little quote from a philosopher from the late 19th century, early 20th century called Ananda Kumaraswamy. And he says that he's talking about art and making art. And he says, this is one of the great descriptions of an artist that I've ever read, actually. He says, we must remember that all artistic operations were originally rites, and that the purpose of the rite was to sacrifice the old and bring into being a new and more perfect human being. So that has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with theories. It just has to do with this way of perfecting the self, which again comes from the ancient world. So here's another one from Ananda Kumaraswamy. He says, to make a work of art, your entire body must be used. I really believe in that too. It's the least useful in making a work of art at the beginning is the head, the intellect. And the most useful at the beginning is the heart and soul and is this idea of being lost. You have to have something, you know, you have to have a situation where you feel lost. That's really important. Another thing to all you young people, the history of art would not be possible without breaking the rules. So ignore what your teacher said, okay? Don't listen to them, okay? If they say do something, go the other way. Let's see what else I have here. I don't know, some of you got to control the time. I'm out of control here. 5 minutes, okay. Okay, so for no particular order, here's just a bunch of things I took from my notebooks, and I'm just going to throw them out. You can take them or leave them. I told you already having a question is more important than the answer. Here's another really good one. risk. You have to take risks, okay? You have to get on the edge of the cliff, and you stand there, and there's a bunch of people around you, and they look over and they go, oh, no, no, I'm not going in there. When you hear that, you go. You go right off. That's where masterpieces come from. I can guarantee it. I was timid when I was young. I know. I didn't take risks. You must have risks. You have to expose yourself to the world. Rumi, the great Persian poet, is one of my heroes. If you don't know Rumi, you should know Rumi, R-U-M-I. He said that the wound is the place where the light enters you. So you have to be damaged. You have to be damaged, okay? Because that's where the light's going to come in. If you're too timid, you won't do it. The other thing us artists do is not only beautify, but we detoxify. We take the poison and we purify the water. That's what we do. So that's why you have really difficult art that most people can't stand and they get really disturbed by it. And you have other art that is one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. Both of those are equal. One isn't good, one isn't bad. You have to get the idea of good and bad out of your vocabulary. And Rumi says here, this is in the 13th century, he says, the pain will be born from that look cast inside yourself, and this pain will make you go beyond the veil. He also, he's an Islamic Sufi. It's incredible. The Sufis are really extraordinary. They're the kind of mystical branch of Islam. And I've been reading them most of my life. And Rumi is just the most extraordinary poet you're going to find in the world. And he talks about childbirth at the wall. You know, when Mary went out to the well, you know that story? It wasn't about the Annunciation inside. There's another version in the Middle East, and it's Mary going out to the well to get water, and then the baby starts coming. And she feels this thing, and it's incredibly painful. And she thinks like she's going to die. And Rumi says, if there's not pain, there's no struggle, and your work will not bear fruit. So think about that, artists. You've got to be suffering in some way in order to make this work. You have to be lost. The other thing, another good thing to think about is the crossroads. That's a very important part in human history. All the cathedrals, the major cathedrals, were built on rivers because they needed the energy, the spiritual energy of the water underground. You go in these big cathedrals sometimes, and when you go down the crypt, you hear the water going through. Okay? That's really, really important. It's the crossroads. Crossroads are a choice. Okay? That's a beautiful thing. You want to go left, you want to go right. Your choice. You have to make the choice. It's an individual decision. And the whole idea of thresholds fascinates me, okay? Thresholds are places where transition zones, where things are changing. They're not fixed, okay? They're unstable, where life is tenuous. You're not sure. Threshold, you can have light or darkness, clarity or confusion, helping or hurting, right or wrong, life or death. Each one of those is an opening that you can choose to enter if you want. That's very important. The other thing, I want to say this to our professors and the people who teach in this university. I respect teachers immensely. I had some really great teachers in my life, and I was very blessed. And they've stayed with me. I can feel them right now. They're in me as I speak to you right now. And I can't repay that till the end of my life. I couldn't even repay it then, what they gave to me. So know that the teachers and your teachers are extremely important. But don't always think of teachers in the context of a school, of a university, okay? You can learn anything from people in the world, okay? Even babies, children, very old people, middle-aged people, doesn't matter. They all contain a teaching that's made for you. And you can find that, you can feel it, and you get it. You don't know why. Why was I attracted to that person? I don't know. So the idea of a teaching, you don't think about school. A teaching is present at every moment. It's there at every moment. Okay? Here's a couple of things to share with you. 3 things I want to share that changed my life. Okay? Here's the first one. First one is by an American artist of the 19th century called Walt Whitman. He's one of my favorite artists. And he wrote a beautiful thing about the artist's path. And he was out one day in Long Island in New York, where the sea is, just by the sea. And he was going back after he received word that his brother passed away. It's always tragic when a younger member of the family passes away before the older members of the family. So he was returning to this place where he received his vision as a young boy, and that was the vision he had, that he was going to be a poet. And so as an old man, he came back, an older man, he came back to this place. And he was grieving the loss of his brother. And he walked out onto the beach, and he wrote these lines. By the sea, under the yellow and sagging moon, the messenger there aroused, the fire, the sweet hell within, the unknown want, the destiny of me. When I read those words, first of all, I wept. And after I wept, I realized what he was saying. So I want to read it line by line to you again. By the sea under the yellow and sagging moon. So there was a special moment. It wasn't just something in the bus somewhere. This was at the sea with the moon coming up out in the water. So it was a special moment, not any moment. The messenger there aroused. That means that special moment touched something in him. It touched something in him. He didn't even know what it was. You won't either. And then he writes these words. The messenger there aroused the fire. What's that? That's passion. That's your passion. Your passion is the most valuable thing you have, because you can't fake it, okay? You can't pretend to have passion. You have to have a burning in your heart. Again, we're not talking about head. You notice all these things I'm talking about have nothing to do with the intellect, okay? That's really critical. Passion, the fire, okay? It's intense. And then he says, the sweet hell within. What does that mean, sweet hell? That means it's going to hurt. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And it's not fun. But it's a kind of hell that's within you, because it won't leave you alone. Then he says, the unknown want. You don't know why you're doing it. I've said that to myself so many times. Why the fuck am I doing this? You know? I can't, what's wrong? You know? I'm just doing this thing. It's like someone told me I needed to do it. And so you're just driven to do it. And then at the very end, he says, the destiny of me. It's my life, and it's going to be with me for my whole life. And those simple words like that on this little piece of paper changed my life. Okay? Number 2, when I was starting out on my life path, in the sort of the first year of art school, I read these words in a book, because I had started reading these kind of mystics. So here is one of my favorites, which is St. John of the Cross. He was born in 1542, died in 1591. He was taken away in the middle of the night by the Inquisition. He was tortured for 9 months. He found a way to compose poetry. A guard in there gave him some paper and pens, and he started composing poetry in his mind. He escaped in the middle of the night, and after he escaped, he expressed constantly through the rest of his life that he had no animosity towards his captors. He felt sorry for them. And they had whipped him so that the back of his back was all hunched over. So that's St. John of the Cross. And he says This is another great line for artists. Human science is not capable of understanding it, nor experience of describing it. Only the one who has passed through it will know what it means, although there will be no words for it. So again, it's not head, it's heart. Heart comes out through the tongue. We say speaking in tongues. Here's the last one, which I really like. This one is was given to us, to Kira and I, by an anthropologist who we met, who had been in Namibia in the south of Africa. And she was working with the Kalahari Bush people. And here's what she experienced when she went out on a hunt with them, and she wrote down what she saw. A woman named Bay was alone in the bush one day when she saw a herd of giraffes running before an approaching thunderstorm. The rolling beat of their hoofs grew louder and mingled in her head with the sound of sudden rain, and suddenly a song that she never heard before came to her, and she began to sing. Gawa, the great god, told her it was a medicine song, a spiritual song, and she went home and taught the song to her husband TK. And they danced and sang it together, and it was indeed a song for trancing, a medicine song. TK taught it to others who passed it on. So this is a woman in the beginning of the 1970s, who was out with the Kalahari Bush people and saw this with her own eyes. So she saw this woman, gathering stuff, and then there's giraffes come running out, and she hears them banging the ground, and she hears this sound in her head, and then it rains, which is more sound, and then suddenly she hears a song out of nowhere. It kind of combines and makes a song, and then she begins to sing it, so it comes out of her, so it doesn't stay in her, it comes out of her. That's what you must do, artists. You've got to get this stuff out of you. If you don't get it out of you, you will die. Literally, you will die. You have to get it out. So then she goes home and she kind of doesn't know, and she asks her husband, and he said, well, yeah, and he tries it. He said, yeah, that's a pretty good song. And then they start dancing it around, and then what do, artists? They give it away. They give it away. They don't hide and say, this is my piece, man. You're not going to have this. I made it. You didn't make it. He made it. She made it. Anyway, I guess we're running out of time. Yeah, I think we should do that. Okay. So let me just, should I stop? Okay, I've been told that I have to stop. One of the things I was also going to say, I was going to give you, tell you about loss, because for me, one of the most important things in my work is loss. When you've lost something. It teaches us humility. I lost both my parents in the 1990s. Gone. Gone. Right? And you remember that. You remember those experiences. It teaches you to deal with existence in a very, very important way. So I've talked too much, as usual. So when I come back, maybe to this great university, which I'd love to someday, we can do part 2. So, but right now, I think we want to look at one more video for you. And this piece is called 3 Women. And it was made, when did we make 3 Women, Kira? This is in 2008, a piece from 2008. Yeah. Okay, great. So we're going to turn out the lights, and this is a silent piece, so I just want you to watch it. Okay, there is no sound on this piece. So why don't we just watch this together? It's called 3 Women. And it's in the Villa Panza if you want to see it again. Have they started walking yet? No flash, please. think we can have the lights. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Do we have time for some questions? Okay, so we're going to have some questions now from you. So thank you for that.
Okay, we have time for 5 questions. Viola wanted to make specifically asked by students, so there is a microphone available here. Yes, you need to, if you just take it out, not yours, your radio one, if you just take it out. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I have to have a medical procedure here for a moment. Okay. Oh, okay. Just turn it off. Okay. So, here. Got it? Great. Okay. Thanks. Okay.
And you can talk from here.
Okay. Great. Sorry. Okay. So how do we do this? Oh, she's going to pass around.
Okay, there is one over there. Jared. He's a student here.
You spoke about Walt Whitman as well as the Persian poet as some of the artists from who you draw inspiration. I'm curious as to who some other artists are that you admire, maybe in various fields too, such as music or the visual arts as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's a huge, it's hard, you know, when you're 61 years old, you have a lot of stuff. Obviously, I spent some time with David Tudor when I was younger. He's the pianist of John Cage. And so I was involved with that aspect of contemporary music for about 8 years, 8 to 9 years in the 1970s. And that was a huge, important thing for me, obviously. And because the medium that I chose to use, or I should really say it chose me, I didn't have anything to do with it. It just caught me, this video. And I was just lucky. Another thing that you artists have to remember is that you will receive probably some of the greatest gifts just by chance, by just being in the right place at the right time. And I can't take, you know, any, compliments about that, you know, because it was just being in the right place. I was born at a time when I became a young man like yourself, at the time that video was just starting. And people were using video, these companies had just started making video. Video was the first art form that existed simultaneously in the world at the same time. Why? Because these big companies, Sony, Panasonic, all of these media companies had offices on all the continents of the world, in Latin America, in North America, in Europe, in Asia, you know, and so everybody at the same time was first discovering video, and they were trying to market it as a kind of home video, which now we know with our little camcorders what that is, but we didn't know that then. So it didn't really work. It was a disaster for the companies. But for us artists, it was amazing because we had these machines that were, reasonable. I mean, we call them porta-packs, but if you can imagine all you young people with our little camcorders, okay? The video cameras in those days were this big, okay? They weighed 10 pounds, okay? And then they came with a recorder, which was this big, and that weighed 35 pounds, and you put that on your shoulder, and you tried to hold the camera still. And it was black and white, and you had to take it like tape. You had to thread it on the spool like that. to make it work. So it's completely crazy that we even tried it. But it created a whole movement of video art, you know, which I was lucky enough to be young and I could, you know, understand the technology. It's just to be in the right place at the right time sometimes is a gift. So, I mean, I can't go down all the lists of stuff for you really, but I've done a lot of different kinds of things, from operas to working with Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails, to you know, just going around the world. I was in villages in the Solomon Islands by myself for like a week with these incredible people that just took me in, and it really changed my life. So, you know, it's really just being at the right place at the right time, and you know, not having a plan. It's always good not to have a plan. You should have an exit strategy. That's what you need. The exit strategy you definitely should have. But a plan, don't, you know. Because the thing about the beauty of it all is really that, you know, it's something that, that human beings just need. We need randomness and chance, you know. And the other thing that's really kind of wonderful is when I was Kira and I were in Asia. We lived in Japan for 1.5 years, and we were in a museum one day, the Suntory Museum. That's the whiskey company, okay? The Suntory Museum of Art. And we were looking at some bodhisattvas. I don't know if you know what a bodhisattva is, all of you, probably some do. Bodhisattvas are like the saints in Catholicism, very similar. And they are the sacred beings, the beings that become enlightened, become deep, and they go to the deepest place that they can in their religion and try to get to God that way. So, and here he is right now. He's just arrived. No. Anyway, so we were in this museum, and bodhisattvas are beings who you've recognized them with robes similar to you know, priests that we have, and bald heads, okay, and they're shaved heads, and they have purified themselves for so many lifetimes that they found that they could get to a Buddhist idea of heaven, okay, which is nirvana, okay. That means it's the highest place you can go to. Bodhisattvas, however, are the ones who get to the door, like it's going up to St. Peter at the gates, right? They get there, and they're ready to go in, and then they go, no. And why do they do that? Because they need to come back down to earth with all of us poor people and help us. So that's the people that help us. That's what a bodhisattva is. It's like a saint who comes and brings you something. So, that was a wonderful thing. We saw this little old lady come into the museum, walk down a row of about 14 bodhisattvas, all decked out, and she put a beautiful scarf on each one, a white, pure silk scarf, and she bowed in front of each one very solemnly and humbly, and went down the row and put these scarves on these bodhisattvas and prayed. And when she got down to the very end, she looked at all of them and she bowed really low and stood up and walked out. Kira and I are standing there, and I've got my guidebook ready to know the dates, the names, you know, what kind of technique this is, what kind of thing, you know. And I look at the book, and I just saw this little old lady. What she did was beautiful. You know, because instead of, like, you know, what she did was, what I was doing, I should say, was I was looking at the computer, okay, let's say. I was looking at the computer, and I had the keyboard here, and I had the hard drive here, and I had all the bits and pieces of it all over the place, and I didn't plug them in. So I was like following the intellectual side, right, of how the thing works and what bodhisattvas are, blah, blah, blah. And then this little old lady just comes walking by, and I realized I had the computer in parts on my desk, and it couldn't possibly function in what it was made to do. And this little old lady used the bodhisattvas. She turned them on. She plugged them all in and turned them on. And that was such a great lesson for me. It was such a beautiful lesson. Anyway, next question.
You probably gave the answer of my question in what you said.
Yeah.
But may I ask you why the three women, they go back through the fall once they've come?
They've come out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
because it seemed to me really awesome when the first one comes forward and helps the other coming through the fall.
Yes.
You know, but why do they go back then?
Okay. Well, that's really what, that's a very good question. I really appreciate that. Basically, that's what families do. I mean, that's what it means to have a family. You're starting your life right now, and I respect that tremendously, and I wish you well. I wish all of you well, seriously. A lot of people have helped me. You have to pass it on. But you're sort of at the beginning. And what life is about is not about beginnings and it's not about ends. It's about eternity. We live in a world, as most Asian cultures, Islamic cultures, in some sense, I would say also Christian cultures. But it's about eternity. That's the most important thing. That's why I told you the story about taking the boat across the river of forgetfulness. So as you age, you know, when you're young, there's so much stuff going on. As you age, you realize that you have one chance, basically, in life. You're going to go around once. Buddhists would say that that's not true, and I kind of believe it. And they believe in reincarnation, so you can also think about that. But basically, they have to go back. If all the human beings that walked in front of us on this earth came back, which is kind of the idea of the resurrection, we would be overwhelmed, you know? So I personally would prefer the reincarnation idea. Human beings are described in three ways. There are three elements in the life of a human being, okay? Two of them are eternal, and only one of them are finite, okay? So the first one is birth. They come in like three reservoirs of humanity. That's how it's described in ancient texts. Three reservoirs of humanity are, number one, the unborn, okay? That is an infinite reservoir. You cannot exhaust it. It will constantly be there. And I'm talking about plants, animals, any fish, anything you want to know. The unborn. That's the possibility of birth, of an arrival, okay? Then I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go to the last one. That's, of course, the dead, okay? So the first one, the unborn, and the last one, the dead, are infinite, and they last for an eternity. They will not end. Ibn al-Arabi, one of my very favorite saints in Islam, I've learned a lot from, calls it the ocean without a shore. Human being is an ocean without a shore. It has no beginning and no end in this world and the next. That's what he said. So that leaves us with the last one, and that's us. Okay? So we're on the stage, Shakespeare's Globe Theater, right? Enter stage left, exit stage right. That's it. You know, you got one chance in the show, so use it wisely. And the beauty of human beings is because, unlike the other two, which just sit in eternity all day long, how boring. So for us, there's a beginning and an end. Wow, that's pretty cool. So get your shit together and, you know, like make sure you have a good ending. You better be ready for it. Anyway.
Okay, we have time for the last questions. Yep.
Oh God, we could
Hi.
talk all night.
You said that art is like made by God, basically, or a gift from God, and you have to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
And do you make like your videos available for free with the internet to the public, or have you ever thought about doing that?
That's probably, yeah, we did. And there's a lot of the stuff is on the internet, actually. A lot of it's on the internet. And some of it's on there without our knowledge even, you know, that's fine too. And then we also have works that we make that are, what would you call the individual works that we make?
Installations.
Yeah.
Have to be experienced firsthand because
Right.
the quality on the internet and also the experience.
Okay, well here, why don't you
can.
no, seriously, why don't
Maybe
you
I can answer that just a little bit more. We make different kinds of works. Some of them can live on the internet, but the quality is so bad and your viewing experience is so poor that we would rather have a situation like this, or in a museum or gallery, or sometimes in churches, sometimes in temples, whatever, because then the experience then becomes very personal. And also, we control the quality, and we've always controlled the quality very, very strongly. Each piece is made with a certain size in mind. Some pieces are very small, you know. Other pieces, you have to stand in the room, and it completely surrounds you. So you can't have that experience on the internet. I think a lot of people complain about the internet because of music is really kind of very poor now. Movies, you can buy movies on the internet, all of these things. It's not the same as if you're in a movie theater and you're watching a 3D. So we would love to see higher quality and a better experience.
Right. But there also are times when our works go out kind of in unlimited editions that are very, very reasonable, you know, for individual pieces. And like Kira's saying is like when we're doing big installations, yeah, I mean you have you know, we build rooms, entire rooms, the way you're going to see in the Villa di Panza, you know. So that's just a different way. I think what's the most important thing for me right now to think about. I mean, in my lifetime up till now, I mean, I'm just amazed that almost every possible way to use this media has come of age. It's here now, and it's really extraordinary. And if some of it's really kind of junky and kind of underground, that's fine, you know. Because the most important thing is to get the information out, I think, you know. And then people know, they're not stupid. They know the difference between something that is really high quality and they would prefer to see it in high quality versus something that is, you know, taken down and made almost unreadable. You know, it's like having a book where you erased most of the letters on the page or something like that. So it really varies, but we kind of work in all kinds of areas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait. Well, you Ted.
Artists, get to work now. Okay, keep working till you die.
I was just saying that you taught us that art can work miracles, and the fact that so many people were stuck here with this heat is one of the. Thank you.
Thank you.